When you're headed out for the evening, whether it's dinner, drinks, or you just want to look a little more put together, your knife can come along for the ride, but not every folder fits those special occasions. Now today I'm going to show you some folding knives that look just as good as you do. They're sleek, stylish, and totally capable, but they won't look out of place next to things like a leather watch or a collared shirt. Now for me, these fall into two different categories, and those are knives that come from the factory as classy, and knives that just need a swap of their scales to get that classy aesthetic. Now, as always, links for these knives and, if applicable, the scales that I swapped out will be down in the description. So without further ado, let's get into it. And the first knife I'm going to bring out is what I would call the prototypical gentleman's knife, and that is a Boker Kaizen. Now, I would say most people, if they think of a prototypical gentleman's knife, probably think of the CRKT CEO, which is a great option, but this has that very similar aesthetic. And this is an S35VN steel blade with G10 scales, and they also have D2 options available. But in general, what most people think of a gentleman's knife will kind of remind you of a letter opener with just that very slim and sleek look. And the other nice thing about knives in this style is you fold it down, you put it in a pocket, have that pocket clip showing. People are going to think it may be a pen or something like that. So you can carry a knife and not have it look like you're carrying a knife. So again, that is the Boker Kaizen. Next, we have another kind of knife that is kind of in that prototypical gentleman's knife mold, and that is a slip joint, and my example is the QSP Hedgehog. Now, there are many brands that are making slip joints, but QSP makes some great ones at a very affordable price. This is a 14C28N steel blade, and the scales are red resin. They also have a blue resin and a wood option available as well. And they have other options in other models as well. But one of the real perks about this one too, with being less than a 3-inch blade and not having a locking mechanism, this should be legal in places that don't allow locking knives and have under a 3-inch blade length limitation. So the most common example of that would be the UK. And so you'll need to double check the laws, but to my understanding, this would be a legal knife to carry in the UK. Now, they also offer this in a cleaver blade if you prefer that, but I really preferred the drop point blade. So again, this is my slip joint, the QSP Hedgehog. Now, last we have what is probably this is the last of the prototypical gentleman's knives, and this is the Opinel No. 6. And this uses, I believe it's the VibraLock or VibraBlock locking system. So when you close it like this, it is not going to open. But when you twist it and open it, and then you twist it to lock it shut, you have a nice lock knife. And I've heard of people that, they didn't want to, or they aren't allowed to carry a locking knife. I've heard of people popping these off and carrying them that way. I don't know how that, works legally and things like that, but that is also an option too. But this is actually the smallest of Opinel's locking knives. But this is a 12C27 blade with a Paduke wood handle. The Paduke model only comes with this polished blade. All of the other models comes with more of a satin finish, so not as shiny, but they also won't show fingerprints and smudges like this one does, but it's just a trade-off. I think I really like the look of this, how shiny it is and things like that. So the other wood options, I believe they have an oak. I can't remember all of them because they have a bunch of them. And they actually also have ones that are not actually wood, that are different materials as well. But for a gentleman's knife, I think wood is the way to go on those. But that is the Opinel No. 6. Now, next we have a knife that takes a different approach to the gentleman's knife, and that is the CIVIVI Qubit. Now, this one is the Damascus steel blade, and to me, this is probably the gentleman's knife out of all of the Qubits because that just the classy look of Damascus steel. And this Damascus is made with 9CR18 MOV and 10CR15 MOV. So you actually know what steels they are, and they are actually pretty decent steels. Not every company tells you what they make their Damascus out of, so it's really cool that CIVIVI actually does do that. Now, I believe that CIVIVI may have switched over to more of a laminated Damascus where they use cheaper steels on the outside but have a core. But at least when I bought this one, it was the 9CR and 10CR that they were making it out of. Now, they also offer them in 14C28N, and there's also a Blade HQ exclusive that is in S35VN. But again, for a gentleman's knife, I think you have to go with the Damascus on this one. And it's light, very snappy, very fun to fidget with, and just an overall great option of a knife. And that, again, is the CIVIVI Qubit. Now, next we have an option for the fifth pocket, and that is the Artisan Cutlery Cleo. And the Cleo, it comes with titanium scales here. There is also a copper version that's offered, so whichever kind of fits your aesthetic that you're going for. The copper probably is more of a classic aesthetic, whereas the titanium is a little bit more modern. But really, I think the star of the show here is the blade, and that is S90V steel. And one of the things that I love about it, despite being a fifth pocket size knife, because of this trail up here, you can get a full 5-finger grip on it. So you can really use it like a knife, which is, one of always my criticisms with the smaller knives is, you're really having to be kind of dainty with it, but this, you can get a full 4-finger grip on it and use it like a knife. And so just amazing combination there. And I think for a fifth pocket knife, if you want a gentleman's knife, you really, really can't beat the Artisan Cutlery Cleo. Next, we're going to have two auto knives. And the first one up is the Kershaw Launch 20. Now, this has marbled carbon fiber inlays and clear anodized aluminum scales. And to me, this one is just really a work of art. It's absolutely beautiful. I love the lines on this. I think the reverse tanto blade just flows very, very well with the overall design of the handle down here. And one of the things I do like is that they did not add a lanyard hole, but that doesn't mean you can't use a lanyard if you want one, because they actually incorporated it down here with this little bar down here. But they didn't, muck up the design of the scales by adding a lanyard hole. So that is a big, big win for me on the design there. And possibly one of the biggest things about this blade is Magnacut steel. So you're getting a very premium high-end steel. And really, I think Kershaw has some of the most affordable autos out there, and they're using premium materials for them too. So, yeah, probably not even just my favorite gentleman's auto, but this is probably in the running for one of my favorite automatic knives. And again, that is the Kershaw Launch 20. Next, our other automatic gentleman's knife, we have the Protech Newport. Now, this one, you can see it is a much sleeker design, much more slim design, fits closer to that prototypical gentleman's knife, but probably not quite, just because the blade's a little bit wider than what you would normally think of. But it's slim, it's clean. There's nothing on here that doesn't need to be. It is just a really simple, elegant knife, and that blade shape just screams, elegance there to me. And this comes with S35VN steel, so it is a very solid steel, and it is a very, very snappy action. And this is definitely lighter than the Kershaw Launch 20. So if you're wanting a lighter auto to carry, this would definitely be a great option. So again, that is the Protech Newport. Now, next is our first knife that got a scale swap to be a gentleman's knife for me. And I actually have two of them. And these are the Swiss Army knives from VICTORINOX. And what I have here are a HUNTSMAN and a SPARTAN. Now, the HUNTSMAN is a much thicker knife. It has more tools here. So this is actually the one, if I was going to carry one of them, this wouldn't be the one just because it's heavier, but it still makes a great knife and a gentleman's knife if you don't mind a heavier knife. But my preference would be here, the SPARTAN, which it has quite a few fewer tools, but that is, more Spartan, hence the name, approach. There's the things you need and really nothing that you don't. But speaking of that, would a Swiss Army knife truly be a gentleman's knife without corkscrews? Because if you cannot open a bottle of wine, what kind of gentleman are you? But if you're going to get a Swiss Army knife as a gentleman's knife, I think this is an absolute necessity. But the scales on here are the big thing that I want to talk about, because these originally both came with camo scales, and they looked fine, but they were not a gentleman's knife. But I wanted to dress them up, so I got these scales from a company called MakeTechCreate, and he has both an Etsy shop and his own shop online. And he actually makes scales for quite a few different knives, including the Para 2 and the Benchmade Bugout and Mini Bugout off the top of my head, and I think the CIVIVI Elementum as well. But the two that I have here, this is a Bloodwood scale on the Spartan, and then the Woodsman, this is an apple wood scale. And he has other ones, like I believe oak and zebra wood. There are various different woods that he uses. I almost said knives, sorry. Different woods that he uses. And the thing that I love about it is that he actually sources this wood locally from a local supplier, and he makes them right here in North America. Now, that may sound, common sense, but there are a lot of people on Etsy and online that are buying scales and things like that from China and then reselling them as handmade on Etsy. And that just drives me nuts. I got taken by somebody that did that, and then I found them on I think AliExpress or something, and they were a third of what I paid. But he is actually making these in North America here. And really, that is the kind of business that I want to support. So I definitely wanted to give him a shout out on these. He really made my Swiss Army knives into true gentleman's knives. And we will actually talk about another one of his knives that he makes scales for here in a little bit. So next up, we have the Demko AD20.5. Now, this is obviously a very different style of knife than we have looked at so far. As far as a traditional gentleman's knife, this obviously does not fit that. This is a chonky boy. This is a heavy knife. But with the original G10 or Grivery, I can't remember which one this came with, scales, it just was, kind of a hard worker knife, but it really was not all that classy of a knife. But with these raw aluminum scales from original Goat, it just makes it a very modern, classy knife. And I absolutely love it. It's super fidgety. It is just a dream to use and play with. The one thing, like I mentioned, it is on the heavier side. So just make sure that you're not going to be weighing your pockets down too much. But as long as that's not a problem, I do not think it is possible to beat a knife as far as having both class and utility when it comes to the Demko AD20.5. Now, when you're ordering scales, just make sure that you're paying attention to whether you have the large pivot or the small pivot model, because that will affect what the scales will fit. But again, this is the Demko AD20.5. Next, we have another knife that probably isn't what you would traditionally think of as a classy knife, and that is the Spyderco Sage 5. Now, again, these usually don't scream classy because they come with G10 scales, and they're very, very useful, very utilitarian knives, but they don't scream class. So what I did, I got wood scales from Svechnikov Workshop, and I also added brass, kind of an antiqued brass hardware to it. And with that, it gives it that really timeless heritage look. Now, this is S30V steel. It's the base steel for the Sage 5, but obviously the Sage 5 comes in a variety of scales, so you can, or not scales, in steels, so you can get the steel that you want and still use these. There are also raw aluminum scales available from several manufacturers, so if you want to go with more the look of the Demko that we were just looking at, that is an option as well. So again, that is the Spyderco Sage 5, one of my favorite gentleman's knives. However, we're going to get to, last but not least, probably my favorite gentleman's knife, classy knife. And this is one you wouldn't think of as a classy knife, probably. It is the Benchmade Mini Bugout. Now, the Bugout in its base form is a very utilitarian, lightweight, great knife for, hiking and when you want to save every ounce possible. But it's not a classy knife. But this is my single most carried gentleman's knife, and this is one that MakeTechCreate came through again with us for. And these are zebra wood scales, and you can just see the intricate cutouts here. It is just very detailed, and the scales are just absolutely beautiful. I love the zebra wood. It may be my favorite kind of wood that I've gotten from him. Now, if you prefer something a little bit larger, he also makes them for the standard or regular size Bugout. I like the smaller one, both for legal reasons, because the Benchmade Bugout has too long of a blade for me to carry legally where I am, but also just as a gentleman's knife, being a smaller knife, this is a great size for that. And despite being a smaller knife, I can still get a full 4-finger grip on it. And again, this is probably my go-to blade when it comes to I want to have a gentleman's knife. Now this one, they come base with S30V steel, but I actually got a custom order, and this is S90V steel. So again, probably my most carried gentleman's knife, the Benchmade Mini Bugout. So as we've seen, whether you're dressing up or just wanting to level up your EDC, there are folders out there that you can use and really look that classy part with your knives. Now, as I mentioned, the description will have links for every single one of these, and if applicable, the scales that I put on them. But if you enjoyed this video, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe so that I can bring you more videos like this. And if you have a suggestion for another video like this, please leave that down there as well. I'm actually thinking about doing a fixed blade version because if you've been watching me for a little while, I love fixed blades, so I have some classy fixed blades as well. Yeah, I always love to hear your suggestions. And until next time, take care of yourself, take care of each other, and I'll see you in the next video.